Sheila here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Jupiter hour moon day. Moon is next to Spica, and Venus is 13 degrees Scorpio. The Sun is conjoining Black Moon Lilith with a degree orb, and Mars is conjoining Antares. This is a great time, right when Uranus is doing its last degrees on Taurus, which will leave us no time. Once Uranus ingresses into Gemini, we basically are going to ingress in a full-blown civil war, and particularly where it is Uranus return, but not only. Uranus is life energy. It's also rebellion, and also unleashing life energy, basically. Now, way before the AI revolution, loss of jobs, death and concentration camps in the United States, forced labor camps, and so on and so forth, the common workplace, upon industrialization, began to look like a place where ritual abuse takes place. What do I mean by that? Have you ever wondered, why does the person that makes you coffee, that pretty much is around the same position, cannot have it like a bar chair with wheels if they need to move somewhere, so that in a shift of 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours, they won't have to lose their feet literally trying to get a job, and later not even have money for the medical bill. Why is it that in a 7, 8, 10-hour flight, the people that serve us food, which doesn't come by, why don't they have something like a rolling chair, or even though all the technology is existing, also for their own security? Okay, because when people are seated, they're expected to be a minute away from being able to strap themselves, but a person that serves them food is expected to go through several times and be available when people want water or something, which is good service. But why does that person have to practically lose their health and their entire chance to grow and raise a family um, in something that is a luxurious flight or even an economy flight? Um, and why does the place that holds a restaurant or a fast food place feels uncomfortable with the clients seeing the waiters or the staff eating their own meals? Why do they have to change their clothes sometimes, even in some places, before they can eat their own meals at the place that they work at? A person that works at a call center has to actually let somebody know every time they take a leak. And it is leaking because of that. And the minute we as society agreed to those things that are in fact a ritual that is supposed to take and dedicate the suffering of the employee to some wealth gods, that's a part of the foundation of the place upon which, when you talk about the real estate of a business, there may have been child sacrifices there. A lot of the Me Too phenomena is simply being incubus, succubus, but if not possible, then basically drawing by psychological abuse on the life energy of employees in the workplace to be used in the cults of the financiers, the bankers, and the places that and the secret societies and communities. And this is how we get Epstein lists. The more somebody was willing to do crime, and crime doesn't have to be looking anything more like, you know, knowing there's something weird with the ingredients of the food, but tagging along with it. Knowing that, hey, that client might not be able to pay that loan, and wait a second, that person was told that their monthly return is so and so at the end of the conversation when they were tired and didn't quite hear. By the time that they will get to see that, they've already lost money that could be the make or break of whether they can pay their mortgage or not. We've introduced credit to the private sector, not of entrepreneurs and businesses. Usually, credit is something that doesn't go through without a list of accountants that approves and budgets and registers and follows through. And the world just agreed. The world just agreed that it has to pay mortgage and not buy house and land, which is basic for food sovereignty, in cash. The world just agreed that technology will be produced by minimum viable product, rendering the fate of humanity in technology completely hopeless. And I gave credit previously to the minimum viable product, to a person that I suspect is a targeted individual. The world simply agreed that the people who develop code will work for 12 hours a day and even more, and to such degree that no matter the salary, they will never get the time to live and actually develop the creativity that they need to live life and to actually have ideas, let alone have patents for their ideas, and they're expected to have their brain donated to something that uses technological interface with type of Aleister Crowley type of occult and sorcery, and never actually grants them dividends for their ideas. Before there were death camps and forced labor camps, there were certain standards in society around work that, under the guise of work ethic, were completely inhumane. When a person can't stand on their feet and they ask for a job, let's say as a waiter or as a coffee barista, while studying or while doing something just to learn how to run a business, or how does a food business work, or how does a restaurant work, or how does a new business work. They could learn branding, they could learn marketing, they could learn customer service, they could learn sourcing, ethical sourcing. There's so many places where a person can grow from that to developing whichever brand, because wherever, whatever business a person will have, they would need to feed their employees, and the employees would rebel on their morning coffee. And I do expect dividends for that tip. Then, if a person can't really stand for long on their feet, immediately they're being suggested, oh, wait, there are other jobs that you can do, rather than adapting the working sector that has absolutely zero reasons not to have a chair for the barista, to accommodate themselves to actually living people working, growing, developing, and partaking in the working sector. When they'll ask why don't they want to work, I'll ask them if they want me to strap them, make sure their eyes are open, and screen interview by interview by interview of satanic ritual abuse survivor without them being able to go to the bathroom without letting me know. Okay? I won't actually do that. I think that euthanasia is actually more humane. It doesn't work in a society that's not rapey, because it doesn't work in a society that doesn't harvest on the life energy of the people in the society. But in those societies, they shouldn't blame Genghis Khan when an even more vile type of predator arrives, which inevitably happens. And who will he consult? Who are the people that are in the hospitals, the jails, even the trafficked people, because that's the intelligence, to know what are the hidden things in society, what are the blind spots around their beliefs. That's how Genghis Khan conquered nearly the entire planet. I remember an unforgettable short for me of a person with a mixed lineage. I think white mom and black dad. Not just black dad, African dad. Okay? And That child was lying on this huge poof, and he could hear his father's voice preaching to him that he doesn't do nothing. How come he rests? He will amount to nothing, and so on and so forth. And the little skit of how, according to that, black people were enslaved was that if somebody would come to take them with a ship, their families and fathers would be, oh, at least you're going to go to work, do something with your life, be grateful, they give you a free ride. And indeed, even the people that had ancestors in slavery claimed that their ancestors that were colonized and enslaved were always grateful. And when I listened to Anneke Luca's story of how they tortured the children, even from their own elite bloodline, they were expected to be extremely grateful for being raped, for being enslaved, because the very life energy that they had as infants, as children, that was used to create and manifest mansions, luxury places, islands, foods, drinks, cars, planes, were supposedly handed to them as though it wasn't their energy that manifested that to begin with, and they were presented as if they had to be extremely grateful that when they participate in all these crimes against humanity, they get all this abundance handed to them that was basically manifested in a ritual that took their own life energy and their own creative energy to the creation of these places that were consecrated with ritual abuse. Uranus in Taurus wants us to make sure we understand what went wrong, be able to identify the patterns, regardless of their nationality, skin color, uniforms, um, gender or sex, or religion, whatnot, or industry. Because when Uranus ingresses into Gemini, it's the 7 years of the actual working revolutions, civil wars, and within those 7 years, Saturn will also be meeting Uranus in Gemini, where child labor would be discussed, particularly in the minings of the minerals and the rocks.